Hello guys, welcome to a new video about Shogi. Today we're gonna be talking about Maka Dai Shogi, also known as ultra wide chess. There is not much history regarding this kind of game, as it is very similar to the one of Dai Shogi. It was most likely invented in the 15th century and it was included in the Shogi Rokushu no Sushiki. However, unlike some of the other kinds of sources that we have from Shogi, the sources that we have on this kind of Shogi are a bit contradictory on how the pieces used to move. I will be covering now some of the main aspects of this kind of game. This is a game that is played on a board of 19 by 19 spaces, and each player has 96 pieces, including 19 pawns. Contrarily to what is written by several authors, Maka Dai Shogi is not played on a goban. A goban has 19 by 19 intersections, and that will lead to 18 by 18 board. For a hook moving, in this case, is a special thing in Dai Shogi and in Maka Dai Shogi, but together with many of the other powerful pieces that are in this game and not the others, it definitely takes it to another level. I will cover now some of the specific rules that we have regarding this game. In Nishizawa Teijin Shogi's Tsukishi, the teaching kin, which is the promoted diva, is described as having the combined moves of the lion dog, which are to move up to 3 squares in any orthogonal or diagonal direction, and the free king. The moves of the lion dog are completely subsumed by the powers of the free king anyway, so this piece only has one way of moving forward, as a free king. Another interpretation of the powers of the teaching king, mentioned but not advocated in the Shogi Association Rules leaflet, gives it the combined move of the free king or a 3 square move with full lion powers. This immensely powerful interpretation is not now considered to be the move intended in Shogi's Tsukishi. The king on making a capture promotes to an emperor. The emperor has the greatest power of any piece in any of the Shogi variants, as it may move in one turn to almost any square on the board, jumping over any number of pieces of either side in the process. In Maka Dai Shogi, there are no restrictions on the capture of lions, as there are in Chu Shogi. The Buddhist spirit, which is the promoted dark spirit, has the combined powers of the lion and free king, and can move as either, but not both, on any one turn. The Buddhist spirit is therefore a very mobile and dangerous piece. The king, on making a capture, promotes to a Jikatenyo, which, as we mentioned, is the most powerful piece in the game. It cannot capture, though, other royal pieces that are protected, and unlike in Shogi, captured pieces in this kind of Shogi cannot be dropped back into play. A captured piece is removed permanently from the game and does not take part anymore. This is done because the size of the game is really large, and if you could put pieces back into the game, it would make it almost impossible to finish the game in any reasonable amount of time. Now I will be covering how the pieces move. So, we have the king, which moves 1 space in any direction around it, and this one can be promoted to the emperor. The hook mover can be promoted to the gold general. The hook mover can move forwards, backwards, and sideways any number of spaces, and then once it has settled into one of those spaces, it can move again. This is the same as the Capricorn, with the difference that the Capricorn does this diagonally instead of orthogonally. The free king, meanwhile, can move any number of spaces in any direction. It moves similar to a queen. The dragon king can move any number of spaces forwards, backwards, sideways, and 1 space in its diagonal directions. The dragon horse, on the other hand, does the opposite. It moves 1 space in any orthogonal direction and any number of spaces diagonally. Then we have the rook, which moves any number of spaces orthogonally and gets promoted to a gold general. A bishop also gets promoted to a gold general, and it moves any number of spaces diagonally. The side flyer moves any number of spaces sideways and 1 space in its diagonal directions. It does not move forwards or backwards, and it is promoted to a gold general. Next we have the lion dog. The lion dog can move up to 3 spaces in any direction, and it can be promoted to a gold general. The She Devil, which gets promoted to a gold general, can get moved 2 spaces in any of its diagonal directions and 5 in its orthogonal directions. The next we have the Wrestler. The Wrestler can move 1 space sideways and 3 spaces in any of its diagonal directions. It does promote to a gold general. Next is the Guardian of the Gods. This one can move any 1 space in its forward diagonals and 3 spaces in any of its orthogonal directions. It gets promoted to a gold general as well. The Buddhist Devil moves 3 spaces on any of its front diagonal sections and 1 space sideways and 1 space backwards. It gets promoted to a gold general. Then we have the Violent Ox. The Violent Ox moves 2 spaces in any of its orthogonal directions and gets promoted to a gold general. Then we have the Flying Dragon, which moves 2 spaces in any of its diagonal directions and gets promoted to a gold general. Then we have the Old Rat, 2 spaces backwards and 2 spaces in its front diagonals. It gets promoted to a Bat. The Side Mover can move 1 space forwards and backwards and any number on its sides. It gets promoted to a gold general. Then we have the Right Chariot. The Right Chariot moves any number of spaces forwards and diagonally upwards and diagonally backwards on the left and moves 1 space back. The Left Chariot does the opposite. It moves 1 space back, any number of spaces forward, and unlimited in its diagonal directions on the top left and bottom right. It gets promoted to a gold general as well. The Vertical Mover does the opposite of the Side Mover. It moves any number of spaces forwards and backwards and 1 space sideways. Then we have the Phoenix. The Phoenix moves 1 square in any of its orthogonal directions and up to 2 in any of its diagonal. It can jump basically to a 2nd square. It gets promoted to a Golden Bird. The Killing does the opposite. It moves 1 space in any of its diagonal directions and it can then jump up to 2 spaces forwards, backwards and sideways. The Donkey, which gets promoted to a gold general, moves 1 space on its sideways directions and can jump to a 2nd square forwards and backwards. The Knight and Donkey both get promoted to gold generals, but the Knight moves in a inverse capital L in its forward directions. Then we have the Gold General. The Gold General moves 1 space in every direction apart from its backwards diagonals, and it gets promoted to a free gold. Then we have the Silver General. The Silver General moves 1 space forward and 1 space in any of its diagonals. It gets promoted to a free silver. Then we have the Copper General, which moves 1 space forwards, backwards and diagonally forwards. It gets promoted to a free copper. Next we have the Tile General. The Tile General moves 1 space on its frontwards diagonals and 1 space on its back. It promotes to a free tile. Then we have the Iron General. It moves 1 space forwards and 1 space in its diagonal forward directions. It gets promoted to a free iron. The Stone General moves only 1 space on its forward diagonals and gets promoted to a free stone. Then we have the Evil Wolf, which moves 1 direction or 1 space in any direction apart from backwards. It gets promoted to a free wolf. The Pawn then moves 1 space forward and gets promoted to the Tokin. The Lance moves infinitely forward and gets promoted to the Gold General. Then we have the Earth General, which moves 1 space forwards and 1 space backwards and gets promoted to a free Earth. Next is the Go-Between, which is 1 space forward and backwards, similar to an Earth General, but it gets promoted to a free Goer. Then we have the Lion, also known as the Furious Fiend in its promoted form. The Lion can perform an Ishiki move. It can move up to 2 spaces in any of its directions, and if it wants to, it can move 1 space forwards, capture a piece and move back to its original position, which is called a moveless kill. Then we have the drunk elephant. The drunk elephant moves one space in every direction apart from directly backwards. It gets promoted to the prince. It's important to know that in this kind of game there is several royal pieces. There is the king, which can be promoted to an emperor, and then there is the prince, and then the drunk elephant can get promoted to a prince. As such, if you want to checkmate your opponent, you need to make sure that there are no emperors, kings, or princes left. Those are the royal pieces. Next we have the blind tiger. It moves one space in every direction apart from directly forwards, and it promotes to a free tiger. Then we have the ferocious leopard. The ferocious leopard moves one space in every direction apart from sideways, and it promotes to a free leopard. Next is the reclining dragon. The reclining dragon moves one space in every direction apart from diagonally forward, and it gets promoted to a free dragon. Then is the blind bear. The blind bear moves one space in every diagonal direction and infinitely backwards. It gets promoted to a free bear. Then we have the Chinese cock, which moves one space directly backwards, one space on its sides, and one space on its forward diagonals. It gets promoted to a wizard stork. Next is the old monkey. It moves one space in every direction apart from sideways and directly forwards. It gets promoted to a mountain witch. Then is the angry boar. The angry boar moves one space in every direction apart from diagonally. It gets promoted to a free boar. Next we have the cat's sword. This moves one space in its diagonal directions and can move after it's promoted as a free cat. Next is the Coil Serpent. It moves one space forward and backwards and one space on its rear diagonals. It gets promoted to a free serpent. Then is the Dark Spirit. It moves one space sideways on the right and one space in all of its diagonals apart from the right rear diagonal. The Diva, and it gets promoted to a Buddhist spirit. The Diva is the opposite. It moves one space to the left and one space on all its diagonals apart from the rear left diagonal, and it gets promoted to a teaching king. The Tokin, which we mentioned before as the promotion for the pawn, moves like a gold general. It moves one space in every direction apart from diagonally backwards. Next we have the bat. The bat moves an infinite number of spaces directly forwards and diagonally on its left and right. The free boar moves in every direction infinitely apart from forwards and backwards. Then we have the free dragon, which moves any number of spaces on its top diagonals and directly forwards, and one space backwards and one space on its rear diagonals. Then we have the free bear. The free bear moves infinitely in any direction apart from forwards and backwards, and it can jump to a second square on its top diagonals. The free wolf can move in any number of direction infinitely apart from sideways, in which it can only move up to 5 spaces. Then we have the golden bird. The golden bird can move infinitely forwards and backwards, 2 spaces on its sides and 3 spaces in any diagonal direction. On the contrary, the great dragon does the opposite. It moves infinitely sideways, 2 spaces forwards and backwards, and 3 spaces on its diagonals. The furious thing, which is the promotion of the lion, moves, apart from having the standard lion moves, it can also move up to 3 squares on any of its directions, both orthogonal and diagonal. Then the Buddhist spirit has the lion moves up to 2 squares around it, and then it can move infinitely up beyond that range. This includes its orthogonal and diagonal directions. Next is the prince. The prince moves like a king. It moves 1 space in every direction. Next we have the reverse chariot, which moves infinitely forwards and backwards, and it gets promoted to a gold general. Then is the wizard stork, which moves 1 space directly backwards and infinitely in every other direction apart from sideways. Then the Mountain Witch does the same but the opposite. It moves infinitely diagonally, one space forward and infinitely backwards. The Teaching King in its first version can move infinitely, and in its second version it can move also infinitely but have up to a third square lion move. This means that it can move up to 3 squares using lion movements. And finally, the Emperor. The Emperor can move to any square that is not occupied on the board, capture any piece on the board that is not a prince, emperor or king, and it can capture a prince, emperor and king only when they are not protected by another piece. These are the movement rules of Maka Dai Dai Shogi. As you can imagine, the aim of the game to make it faster is to try to get as many royal pieces as possible with your drunk elephant and your king capturing pieces, because then you can have more pieces that the enemy needs to capture and also get the Emperor. The Emperor is the most powerful piece in all of the Shogi variants that exist. The way that this game is typically played is that you try, since there are no putback rules like in a standard shogi and such, the aim is to try to use your worst pieces to clear a way for your better pieces to get promoted, such as your hook movers, getting the free kings and all these important pieces. Most pieces, as you have probably imagined from before, get promoted to gold generals. To be honest, unless it's very late in the game and there is some strategy to it, it might be much more beneficial, for instance, to keep the She-Devil as a She-Devil instead of a gold general, because it can move much more than what a gold general typically can. You should also not underestimate the power of the Phoenix, the Killing and the Donkey, since they can move to a second square in many directions as well. This kind of game is very slowly paced, and normally it is only played by experts that can allow themselves to play several hundreds of moves. If it's played against beginners, it should take little time, because with pieces like the Lion, the Furious Fiend, Buddhist Spirit and the Emperor, amongst other pieces that can move infinitely, is very easy to indent and then destroy the defense of your opponent. It is a very fun kind of game. This one I have not played it before, but if I did, that's how I will play it. I will focus on getting as many royals as possible, get all the smaller pieces out of the way if possible, and that way make way to get into the promotion zone of the opponent to promote my better pieces and take control of the game. Definitely having an Emperor will help, because any piece that they leave isolated, you can immediately capture it, including royal pieces. This means that they need to contribute far more pieces to their defense and much less to their offense. And this allows you, since there is no drop back rule, to slowly chip away at the opponent, to then deliver a crushing blow with many more pieces that he will not have available. There is also a few different extra points that I would like you guys to consider. One of them is that the TSA and the Japanese Wikipedia of Maka Dai Dai Shogi suggest with a very clear idea that promotion is compulsory on any capture. However, this is where it comes the difference between how pieces move in this kind of game. This is because many powerful pieces, as I mentioned before, promote to gold general, which is very weak compared to, for instance, the She-Devil. So you have to be very careful with how you promote things, because the game could quickly degenerate into a massive sea of gold generals fighting and moving very slowly. Then, another important rule is that any piece, promoted or not, that captures a diva or a teaching king, which is a promoted diva, promotes itself to a teaching king. This is effected by replacing it on the board with a captured piece. Similarly, any piece that captures a dark spirit or Buddhist spirit promotes to a Buddhist spirit. This is sometimes expressed as the piece being contagious. When something captures a contagious piece type, it becomes the piece type. The only exception is potentially royal pieces, which are the drunk elephants, princes, kings, and emperors, which promote to the normal promoted forms or stay as if they are already promoted. It is not clear also what happens if a multi-capturing piece, such as a lion or a lion dog, captures two different contagious pieces in one turn. Example of how this could happen: if a lion captures both a teaching king and a Buddhist spirit on the same turn, but although the situation is very unlikely to arise, an official of the Japanese Shogi Association suggested in discussion with H.G. Mueller, who programmed an engine Hachu for Shogi and wrote the descriptions for some large Shogi variants for the chess variant pages, that the multi-capturing piece will promote to the last piece captured. Otherwise, pieces don't promote more than once. Pieces on the 4th, 5th and 6th ranks which promote, as well as the outside pieces of the 1st and 2nd ranks promote, or demote if you want to consider it that, to gold. 12 of the pieces in the 1st and 2nd ranks, as well as the go between, become free when promoted, meaning that they move in the same directions as they in their own promoted state, but are free to move an unlimited number of spaces. Then, I will be reading now the game equipment. So, this is the number of specific pieces that you will be playing on this game. So, you have one king, one hook mover, one capricorn, one queen, two dragon kings, two dragon horses, two rooks, two bishops, two side flyers, one lion dog, one she devil, one wrestler, one guardian of the gods, one Buddhist devil, two violent oxen, two flying dragons, two old rats, one right chariot, one left chariot, two vertical movers, two side movers, one phoenix, one kirin, two donkeys, two knights, one drunk elephant, two blind tigers, two ferocious leopards, one reclining dragon, two gold generals, two silver generals, two copper generals, two tile generals, two evil wolves, two iron generals, two stone generals, two reverse chariots, two lances, two earth generals, two go-betweens, two blind bears, one Chinese cock, one old monkey, two angry boars, two cat swords, one coil serpent, one dark spirit, one diva, and 19 pawns.